What's up YouTube fragrance family, Tommy with Studio Sense here. Welcome to another video where we talk about fragrance. You ever watch a movie and you're like, oh man, that movie was really good, but then you see the newspaper headlines the next day, or you're scrolling through clickbait online and you see that critics slammed the movie for being terrible, and you're like, does that make me dumb? Because I really enjoyed the movie. The answer is it doesn't make you unintelligent because you enjoyed a piece of entertainment that someone else didn't, because that's often the case when it comes to consumables, entertainment, things like that. Tastes are very subjective. So that's the subject of today's video. I'm going to take 5 fragrances that when they were released, they weren't extremely immediately popular. They weren't critical failures per se, but they weren't instant successes either, and a lot of people didn't really care for them. However, I personally found them and find them very enjoyable. That and more is coming your way, so stay tuned. Welcome back everyone. The subject of today's video, 5 fragrances that when they were released, they weren't instant successes. They didn't create a lot of buzz. They didn't create a lot of instant sales, and people are just like meh about the fragrances themselves. However, I found them and find them very enjoyable. Actually really like them. Let's go ahead and dig into this list. It's a relatively short list, and I'm curious to get your take on these as well. The very first fragrance that we're going to talk about is from the design house Davidoff. A lot of fragrances kind of suffer a little bit from the expectation that's created by familiarity. People are very familiar with their fragrances, you know, your first steps on your fragrance journey, and you've got some fond memories. So when something messes with your memories, you don't really care for that. This particular release may have messed with some people's memories, or at least an idea of what they feel the fragrance should have been, so it didn't go over supremely well, but I think it's starting to build a nice little following, and that is Cool Water Parfum. This fragrance is so well put together, it's so well blended. It has that kind of uniform creaminess, that refinement that you come to expect out of a eau de parfum. It has that cool water DNA, yet it just takes it puts a nice tie on it, it dresses it up a little bit. Immediately when you spray this on, you get a fresh burst of pink pepper, you get some really citrusy Primavera lemon, sandalwood, and vetiver in the base. You've got this nice Haitian sourced vetiver and sandalwood in the base, and that's what really makes this. It maintains a really nice citrus bite, a blue aquatic feel, and just that smooth creaminess as an eau de parfum. Because they don't charge an arm and a leg for their fragrances, they do sometimes suffer in terms of performance. Cool Water Parfum lives up to its name as a parfum in terms of performance. I get a good 8 to 10 hours. So while a lot of people's expectations may have been let down, didn't really care for this as a parfum, I, for one, really enjoy Cool Water Parfum, and if you haven't given it a chance, try it out. Whether you use Cool Water back in the day, it doesn't matter. This is its own standalone fragrance in the Cool Water universe. Cool Water Parfum by Davidoff. Salvatore Ferragamo is a designer that's been making clothes and fragrance for many, many years. One thing they're known for is their leather, whether it's leather belts, leather shoes. So when Salvatore Ferragamo released Intense Leather, there was some expectation that this was going to be an incredible banger of a fragrance. However, Ferragamo's leather fragrances have always been kind of light. I, for one, didn't expect a extremely strong medicinal based harsh resinous leather, or like Tom Ford's ombre leather, like a nice new but burnt leather. That's not what Ferragamo Intense Leather is, and as a result, I think a lot of people were let down, and this wasn't what they expected it to be. And so it didn't quite get very far off the tarmac in terms of best fragrance releases of 2021. Now the leather in this is very fresh, it's very new. It's like taking a brand new belt, a brand new pair of shoes, fitting them on. It might be a little tight at first, or like a leather baseball glove. Add a little bit of oil to it, a little bit of movement, and it'll start wearing in. But it's got that nice fresh leather smell, and I really enjoy how it actually performs. And the presentation and the atomizer on this bottle is just a fantastic atomizer. I love how this thing sprays so uniformly, smells so good. It's got a nice intensity, it's got a nice density, but it's very light. So as leather fragrances go, this is one of the more refreshing and invigorating leather fragrances. It's got pink pepper, clary sage, Anerca apple. Anerca is just like, it's an apple that grows in the southern part of Italy. It's got that really nice crisp apple note in the top. You've got lily of the valley, oak moss, iris, some really earthy notes, and musk in the base. Ferragamo Intense Leather. Ever since I first got my nose on Bentley Intense for Men and Bentley Absolute, all right, Bentley, I see you. And not only manufacture classic vehicles, but you make some really nice fragrance as well. And so Bentley Momentum Unlimited fragrance, I got my nose on that fragrance, really enjoyed it. And so when the brand new 2021 Momentum Unbreakable was released from Bentley, I immediately paid full retail for it, went out and got it, and I was not let down. The very front of it has kind of like a concrete facade, and it looks like pavement. The way they've mixed the notes, kind of like a mix of fossil fuel and asphalt. It's one of those fragrances where they use floral notes to really good effect. You've got violet, you've got lavender, you've got geranium, immortelle, iris, and in the base you've got vetiver, patchouli, papyrus, and an aroma chemical called dreamwood. To me, it's a fascinating, multifaceted fragrance. Didn't get a ton of sales or accolades when it was released, but I think it is a great addition to the Momentum family of fragrances for Bentley. And if you haven't gotten your nose on it, Momentum Unbreakable is a definite must. If you like those kind of dry fossil fuel signature scent fragrances that are hyper versatile for any scenario and situation, Momentum Unbreakable is definitely just that. I almost didn't put this fragrance in this list because people are catching on to what a very solid designer fragrance that this is now. But when it was first released, people were like, whatever, just another Hilfiger. And yes, it is Tommy Hilfiger Impact Intense, the Oriental version of Impact. The original Impact was released in 2021. Shortly after that, Impact Intense was released. Didn't garner a lot of attention. It's just a Hilfiger fragrance. It's just a casual Oriental fragrance for men. A lot of Hilfiger fragrances make good use of an apple note. This is no different. It's got red apple, has some LME resin in the top. You've got a nice fresh fruity bergamot and apple open. And in the heart's where it starts to show its Oriental background. You've got chestnut, amber, labdanum, and cardamom. In the base, you've got Akigala wood, and then you've got three kinds of cedar. You've got Atlas, Texas, and Virginia cedar. So it's very cedar oriented in the base, modified with a little bit of sandalwood. It's just an excellent all-around casual Oriental, aka cool weather fragrance. Hilfiger Impact Intense is an extremely affordable, extremely wearable, wonderfully casual fragrance. You think of t-shirt and jeans as being casual for a Sunday afternoon in the summer, add a jacket to that and you've got a Sunday afternoon casual fragrance for wintertime. Impact Intense by Tommy Hilfiger. All right guys, so last of our 5 fragrances that weren't a tremendous success when they were first released. However, I find them extremely enjoyable, usable, very solid, and definitely worth owning. Now this particular fragrance is a Ralph Lauren fragrance. It was released and a lot of people were grumbling that it's just a basic generic fragrance. However, I don't find that's the case. It is Ralph's Club. Trying to make it more of an exclusive signature scent by naming it Ralph's Club, no doubt. It's not really a clubbing fragrance. It's an all-around versatile fragrance that makes use of a great combination of lavender and clary sage. It's a very spicy but very smooth, elegant man's fragrance. You've got Virginia cedar residing in the heart, and this one is just resting on a base of vetiver. That grassy background, when you mix it with that wonderful duo of clary sage and lavender, it performs really well for me. Extremely smooth, well worn. Now this one can be worn in upscale events as well as casually. It's got that signature scent bent to it, and that to me is a big plus for Ralph's Club. So while I don't think it's a generic fragrance, it's definitely hyper versatile. Ralph's Club by Ralph Lauren. Well guys, that's it for my 5 fragrances that weren't tremendously popular. They got a little bit of negative buzz when they were released. Didn't sell a ton of them, but I very much enjoy them and I highly recommend them. If you've got experience with these fragrances, let me know what your experience is like. And if you feel there are other fragrances out there that got some bad press, but you really enjoy, let me know what those are as well. Again, thanks so much for stopping by and checking out today's video. And as always, thank you so much for your support. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you tomorrow.